Lesson 67. When you see someone's mistake, ask yourself what you can do to help them one afternoon. Confucius and his students were sitting under a large tree, enjoying the calm breeze and sharing thoughts about life. Among them was a young student named Henry, who had recently made a serious mistake while managing an important task. He felt deeply ashamed and afraid that his teacher would scold him. The weight of guilt pressed heavily on his heart. But instead of reacting with anger or disappointment, Confucius looked at Henry with gentle eyes and said softly, "Henry, can you share with me what went wrong?" Henry hesitated at first, his head lowered in embarrassment. He slowly explained his mistake and confessed his worries, fearing he had let his teacher down. After listening quietly, Confucius smiled kindly and said, "Everyone makes mistakes, my student. What truly matters is not the mistake itself, but what we learn from it. Think about how you can correct your error and avoid repeating it. I do not blame you. I only wish for you to grow wiser through this experience." Henry was surprised by his teacher's compassion. Instead of criticism, he received understanding. Instead of shame, he found encouragement. In that moment, he realized something profound, that mistakes are not meant to destroy us. They are meant to teach us. With this newfound understanding, Henry promised himself to face his errors with honesty and responsibility. From that day forward, he became more careful, reflective, and humble. Over time, he grew into one of Confucius's most respected students, not because he never failed, but because he always learned. This story carries a timeless truth that still applies in today's society. In our modern world, people are often quick to judge, criticize, or shame others when they fall short. Social media, workplaces, and even personal relationships can sometimes turn mistakes into public spectacles. But Confucius reminds us that the true measure of wisdom lies not in condemnation, but in compassion. When we see someone stumble, instead of pointing fingers, we can ask ourselves, what can I do to help them rise again? Offering guidance, patience, or simple understanding can make all the difference. Sometimes one kind word can change a person's entire direction. Mistakes are part of being human. No one grows without them. True strength is found not in perfection, but in the courage to admit faults and the willingness to improve. Confucius's lesson teaches us to replace judgment with empathy and punishment with support. If we learn to help others correct their mistakes instead of condemning them, we create a world filled with growth, kindness, and mutual understanding, a world where every failure becomes a stepping stone toward wisdom. Lesson 68. True wealth is not money, but knowing contentment own day. Confucius and his students were traveling through a small village. As they walked along the dusty road, they met a poor farmer who was working in his field. His clothes were worn, his house was simple, and his tools were old. Yet, to everyone's surprise, his face shone with peace and joy. One of the students, named Thomas, couldn't understand this. With curiosity and confusion, he asked, "Sir, you live in such poverty. How can you always be smiling and content?" The farmer looked at him kindly and replied, "I may not be rich, but I have enough to live, enough to care for my family, and enough to sleep peacefully at night. I am grateful for what I have. That, to me, is real wealth." Hearing this, Confucius smiled gently and said, "True wealth does not come from possessions or gold. A person is truly rich only when they know what is enough. Those who chase after endless desires, even with great fortune, live in worry and never find satisfaction. But those who appreciate what they already have live in peace and happiness." Thomas reflected deeply on his teacher's words. He realized that happiness doesn't come from owning more, but from appreciating what already exists. He saw that many people in society, even those with power and money, were trapped in restlessness, always wanting more, always comparing, always unsatisfied. This timeless lesson carries profound meaning for today's world. In modern society, many people measure success by material possessions, bigger houses, newer cars, or higher salaries. Yet, despite abundance, many still feel empty inside. Confucius reminds us that true wealth lies not in accumulation, but in gratitude. When we learn to be content, our hearts find peace. When we appreciate the simple joys of family dinner, good health, a quiet evening, we discover a richness that no amount of money can buy. Gratitude transforms ordinary moments into treasures, and contentment turns a modest life into one filled with meaning. True wealth is not counted in dollars or possessions. It is measured by peace of mind and the ability to say, "I have enough." Confucius's wisdom teaches us that the richest person is not the one who has the most, but the one who needs the least. To know contentment is to find true freedom, a freedom that no wealth can ever purchase. Lesson 69. The value of a person lies not in what they have, but in what they give. In ancient times, there was a wealthy merchant named Henry. He owned vast lands, countless treasures, and luxurious houses. From the outside, it seemed he had everything a person could ever want. Yet, despite his riches, Henry lived a lonely life. People around him respected his money, but not his heart. No one truly cared for him, and deep down, he felt an emptiness that wealth could not fill. One day, Confucius visited Henry's town and decided to meet him. Seeing the merchant's grand estate, the teacher asked gently, "Henry, you have so many possessions, but why do you seem so lonely?" Henry was surprised. "I have everything I need," he replied. "How could I possibly be lonely?" Confucius smiled softly and said, "True value is not found in what we own, but in what we give. You may possess great wealth, but if you never share it with others, your heart will always remain empty. A life without generosity is a life without connection." Those words struck Henry deeply. That night, he couldn't sleep. He began to realize that all his riches meant nothing if they brought joy to no one else. The next morning, he made a decision that would change his life forever. Henry started using his wealth to help others, building shelters for the poor, providing food for the hungry, and supporting families in need. Slowly, something began to change inside him. The loneliness that once haunted him started to fade. The smiles of gratitude he received filled his heart with a warmth he had never known before. Over time, Henry became beloved in his community not because of his money, but because of his kindness. He learned that giving doesn't diminish what we have. It multiplies the love and meaning in our lives. This ancient story holds a powerful message for today's world. In a society that often measures success by material wealth, Confucius reminds us that true worth is measured by generosity, compassion, and service. We may own much, but if we do not give, we remain poor in spirit. The greatest legacy we can leave behind is not our possessions, but the goodness we share with others. When we give from the heart, we discover that the more we give, the richer our souls become. True value is not in how much we have, but in how much we give. Lesson 70. If you want happiness, create it yourself. Own peaceful morning. A young student named Liam came to visit Confucius, his face filled with sadness. He bowed respectfully and said, "Master, I don't understand why I feel so unhappy. I have everything I need, food, comfort, and safety, yet I still feel empty inside." Confucius looked at him calmly and asked, "Liam, do you believe happiness is something that can be found outside of yourself?" Liam hesitated, then shook his head. "No, Master, but I don't know how to find it within." The wise teacher smiled gently. "Happiness," he said, "is not something others can give you, nor is it hidden somewhere for you to discover. It is something you must create within your own heart. If you wish to be happy, you must learn to nurture gratitude, peace, and kindness from within. True happiness begins when you stop searching for it outside and start building it inside yourself." Liam was silent for a long moment, reflecting on his teacher's words. That day, he decided to change the way he lived. Instead of waiting for joy to appear, he began to create it through his actions. He started by helping his neighbors, sharing meals with the poor, and spending more time appreciating the simple beauty around him, the sound of birds, the warmth of sunlight, the laughter of children. Slowly, something within him changed. The emptiness he once felt began to fade. Each small act of kindness brought him warmth. Each moment of gratitude made his heart lighter. Liam realized that happiness wasn't a distant dream or a reward to be earned. It was a choice, one he could make every day. When he returned to Confucius after some time, His teacher noticed the glow in his eyes. Confucius asked softly, "Tell me, Liam, how do you feel now?" Liam smiled and bowed. "Master, I finally understand. Happiness was never lost. I simply wasn't creating it." Confucius nodded. "Remember this lesson well," he said. "The happiest people are not those who have the most, but those who make the most of what they have." This timeless teaching carries powerful meaning in today's world. Many people believe happiness depends on success, wealth, or approval from others. But Confucius reminds us that happiness is not a prize. It is a practice. It grows from gratitude, kindness, and self-awareness. In our fast-paced modern lives, we often chase happiness through external achievements, more money, fame, or recognition, only to find ourselves restless. True happiness begins when we stop running and start appreciating. It's not something we find at the end of the road, but something we build with every step. When we learn to create happiness from within, we no longer depend on the world to make us smile. We become the source of our own joy. Lesson 71. Never do to others what you wouldn't want done to yourself. One afternoon, Confucius sat with his students under the shade of an old tree. Among them was a young man named David, known for his enthusiasm and willingness to help others. However, though his intentions were good, David often spoke bluntly, unaware that his words sometimes hurt the people he was trying to help. One day, David noticed a friend struggling with a task. Instead of offering comfort or encouragement, he criticized the friend harshly, saying, "You should have done it better. How could you make such a mistake?" His friend, embarrassed and wounded, walked away in silence. Confucius, who had witnessed the exchange, later called David aside. In his calm, steady voice, he asked, "David, do you know what causes others pain?" David looked puzzled and replied, "Master, I only wanted my friend to realize his mistake. I didn't mean to hurt him." Confucius smiled gently and said, "If you don't want others to criticize you harshly, then don't speak harshly to them. Words can either heal or harm. True kindness is not only about what we do, but also about how we make others feel. If we wish to guide someone, we must do so with empathy and respect." Those words struck David deeply. He realized that his intention to help meant little if his actions caused pain. From that day forward, he decided to change his approach. When his friends made mistakes, he no longer scolded them. Instead, he offered gentle advice, encouragement, and understanding. Over time, people began to notice the change in him. His words became a source of comfort rather than criticism, and his relationships grew stronger. He learned that real wisdom lies not in pointing out others' faults, but in helping them grow with compassion. This story reveals a timeless truth that remains profoundly relevant in today's world. In our fast-paced society, filled with opinions, arguments, and quick judgments, it's easy to forget how powerful our words and actions can be. Social media, workplaces, and even friendships often become spaces where people criticize without empathy. Confucius reminds us that the foundation of good character is respect, treating others as we wish to be treated. If we desire kindness, we must first give it. If we want understanding, we must offer it. The principle may sound simple, but it carries immense strength. Empathy builds bridges where judgment builds walls. When we pause to consider how our actions affect others, we cultivate harmony in our relationships and peace within ourselves. As Confucius taught, the best way to live rightly is never to do to others what you would not want done to yourself. True morality begins not with rules, but with the heart that understands another's pain. Lesson 72. Effort is never wasted. There was once a man named Philip, known for his determination and ambition. Throughout his life, he worked tirelessly to achieve great things. Yet, no matter how hard he tried, success seemed to slip through his fingers. Disappointment weighed heavily on his heart, and one day, feeling defeated, he went to visit Confucius. "Master," Philip said with a sigh, "I've tried so hard, but nothing seems to change. Every time I fail, it feels as if all my effort was for nothing." Confucius listened quietly, his calm eyes reflecting understanding. After a moment, he smiled gently and said, "Philip, your efforts are never wasted. Every time you try, you grow stronger." Even when results don't come as you expect, you're learning about patience, perseverance, and yourself. Each attempt brings you closer to your goal. The only true failure is when one stops trying. Those words sank deeply into Philip's heart. For the first time, he realized that effort itself was a form of success. Each challenge had taught him something valuable. How to think more clearly, act more wisely, and endure more patiently. With renewed faith, Philip stopped focusing only on outcomes and began appreciating the process of growth. Instead of seeing failure as defeat, he saw it as training. Slowly but surely, his persistence began to bear fruit. The lessons he had gathered from each setback became stepping stones, guiding him toward his dream. In time, he achieved what once seemed impossible, not because of luck, but because he refused to give up. Confucius's wisdom reminds us of a truth that still matters today. In our modern world where people chase instant results and quick rewards, it's easy to forget that real progress takes time. Many give up just before success arrives, believing their effort was meaningless. But effort is never meaningless. Every attempt shapes our character, builds resilience, and prepares us for the next opportunity. Life is not a straight path to victory. Sometimes the reward lies not in reaching the destination, but in the transformation that happens along the way. Each failure refines us, each effort strengthens us, and each lesson brings us closer to the person we're meant to become. As Confucius taught, effort is never in vain. It is the bridge that carries us from where we are to where we wish to be. So keep trying, even when results seem distant. One day, you'll look back and realize every step mattered. Lesson 73, wherever you go, go with all your heart. In the time of Confucius, there lived a young man named Leo, a dedicated student who had chosen to become a healer. From a young age, he was fascinated by medicine and dreamed of helping those in pain. He studied hard, memorized every formula, and mastered every method. Yet, despite his knowledge, something was missing. His patients often felt that his care was mechanical, skillful, but cold. One day, as Confucius passed by, he saw Leo examining a sick man. The young healer spoke precisely, but without warmth or empathy. When the patient left, Confucius called Leo aside and said gently, "Leo, do you know what makes a true healer?" Leo bowed and replied, "A true healer must have great knowledge, master." Confucius smiled and shook his head. "Knowledge is important," he said, "but it is not enough. A healer must treat not only the body, but also the heart. Without compassion, skill becomes empty. The hands may cure, but only the heart can heal." Leo stood silent, his mind awakening to a deeper truth. He realized that he had been performing his work without true passion, without heart. From that day on, he changed. He began to speak kindly to his patients, to listen to their fears, and to comfort them as he treated their illnesses. Over time, something beautiful happened. His patients not only recovered faster, but also felt seen, understood, and valued. Leo discovered that healing came not just from medicine, but from empathy and sincerity. His work was no longer a duty. It became an act of love. Years later, people came from far and wide to be treated by him. They said that his hands carried warmth and his words carried peace. Leo had become not just a great doctor, but a great human being, one who worked with both knowledge and heart. This story reminds us of a truth that still matters deeply in today's world. In our fast-paced society, many people work only for results, to earn, to achieve, to move forward, yet forget the heart behind their actions. Confucius teaches us that true success and happiness come when we put our soul into what we do. Whether we are teaching, creating, serving, or leading, when we give our whole heart, we bring meaning to our work and joy to those around us. Wherever you go, go with all your heart, and life itself will respond in kind. Lesson 74. Don't worry about what hasn't happened yet. In peaceful morning, a young student named Liam came to Confucius, his face clouded with worry. Bowing respectfully, he said, "Master, I can't stop thinking about the future. I don't know if I will succeed or fail. The thought of what might happen makes me feel anxious and restless." Confucius looked at him with calm, understanding eyes and said, "Liam, Do not burden your heart with worries about things that have not yet come to pass. If you spend your energy fearing what may happen, you will lose the power to act in the present, the only moment that truly belongs to you. Liam listened quietly as Confucius continued. You cannot change the past, nor can you predict the future, but you can act wisely today. Every step you take now shapes what comes next. When you live fully in the present, the future will take care of itself. Those words struck Liam deeply. He realized that his constant worrying had been draining his strength and keeping him from doing what mattered most. From that day on, he decided to change his mindset. Instead of letting fear of the unknown control him, he began focusing on what he could do right now, studying diligently, practicing patience, and improving his character. At first, the habit of worrying tried to return, but each time, Liam reminded himself of his teacher's words, "The future begins in what I do today." Slowly, his anxiety faded. His mind grew clearer and he started to find peace in simple, everyday actions. Over time, he achieved success not because he predicted it, but because he prepared for it through steady effort and calm focus. This ancient teaching holds powerful truth for today's world. In modern society, where uncertainty fills our days, from careers to relationships to global challenges, it's easy to let fear of the future dominate our thoughts. Yet, as Confucius reminds us, worrying changes nothing. Action does. When we focus too much on what might happen, we forget to appreciate what is happening now. The energy we waste on anxiety could instead be used to build, learn, and grow. Happiness and progress come when we shift our attention from fear to action. From tomorrow to today. As Confucius taught, don't worry about what hasn't happened. Do your best in the present, and the future will unfold as it should. True peace begins not in controlling the future, but in mastering the moment. And so, through these 8 timeless lessons from Confucius, we are reminded that wisdom is not just found in words, it is found in how we live, how we treat others, and how we choose to grow every single day. Each story is a mirror reflecting a part of ourselves, our patience, our compassion, our perseverance, and our search for happiness and meaning. These teachings remind us that even in a modern world full of noise and pressure, the ancient truths still guide us toward peace, balance, and fulfillment. If these stories touched your heart, inspired your thoughts, or made you reflect on your own journey, remember, this is just the beginning. There are still many more lessons from Confucius waiting to awaken the wisdom within you. So, take a deep breath, carry these teachings with you, and let them light your path forward. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because in the next videos, we'll continue exploring more powerful lessons from Confucius, stories that will open your mind, warm your heart, and inspire your soul. Stay curious, stay kind, and keep growing, because true wisdom begins with you.